and then Suleiman.
Ray, it was another great night of fights, top to bottom, the heavyweights and women's featherweights brought it throughout the night. I guess I want to get your first thoughts on how the night went and the night overall.
Yeah, no, last week I think those guys set the bar. And I wasn't sure how these guys were going to react, but I think we ended up with 8 finishes tonight as well. So it's good when certain fighters come out and they set the bar, and then these guys step up and do exactly the same thing. So overall, I was happy with the night. There was a few upsets, but great night overall.
I want to get your thoughts too, like Francis Ngannou obviously sitting cage side tonight. God feel great having him here in Atlanta.
Right.
What were those conversations like cage side? What do you think of the fights tonight? What can you tell us about what he thought of the fights?
Oh, he enjoyed all the fights. There were certain fights, like for example, when Marcelo was fighting, he yelled out for Marcelo because Marcelo would train with us from time to time, and Francis would train with them from time to time. So, they've known each other from that. And even when Marcelo walked past, he said, "Yeah, let's get some training in together again." So. He was, definitely rooting for certain people there, but he enjoyed it. He had fun.
Last question for me, Biagio, Ali Walsh, obviously another big-time performance tonight. How close do you feel like he is to turning pro? Where do you feel like he is in terms of his career and his development?
It's funny you asked that because I had a conversation with him, I want to say maybe a month ago. And, of course, for us, it's just building him right? Because, as you saw tonight, he has all the potential to, create his own legacy, if you will. And so I think he wants to have a few more amateur fights and then turn pro. So there's a possibility that he may turn pro on our first pay-per-view card. But again, that just depends on him when he's ready. So I believe that he wants to fight again in August in the playoffs. So, I got to sit down with him and chat and his team and see where his head's at, and we'll go from there.
Thank you. Ray, you're defending women's champion. Looked amazing. Just what did you think of how Larissa brought it tonight?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, put it that way. Larissa is so aggressive and dominant in what she does, right? And tonight, the way the fight turned out, it wasn't a surprise at all. And I've had people ask me about it, and I think it's one of these things where Amber had to kind of use her reach, stay on the outside, and see if she could, create something from the outside. But with that kind of pressure and that kind of punching power, it's very hard to do. And, and the outcome of the fight was the outcome.
I'd like to ask you about Dennis Goldsov, who also got first-round finish. I know there's a lot of attention on the main event with
Right.
the Francis component, but you got a guy who's now been top of the leaderboard multiple times.
Right.
What do you think of him and going into the playoffs?
Oh, I mean, it's great. I was talking to him and his team, and they're really happy about it. Obviously, he's been knocking at the door for a while now. And I think this is probably his best opportunity listen, every fight is a dangerous fight. But, he's going to have to come out and perform in the playoffs and try and get to the championship and then go from there. But I think he has a pretty good chance of getting there this year with, the results that he's produced and where the actual league has fallen in terms of who came through. So, no, I wish him nothing but the best.
Finally, we did get to speak to Francis earlier, and we were talking about it. A PFL pay-per-view that features both him and Jake Paul. There's a lot of money, a lot of business, but he said, you know what? They got something cooking. Can you let us into the kitchen?
That is, we got something cooking. It's in the works.
Right here. Hey, Ray, congratulations on
Thank
a
you.
great night, my man. Okay, Francis, John there, you're right there in the middle.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit what they were talking about, a little intimate conversation.
Yeah, they had nothing but respect for each other. They both, said what they wanted to say. They both want to fight each other. And then I believe Francis also said, brother, my advice to you is don't let the system dictate what you do. And so, I think John was appreciative of that kind of, feedback, if you will. But, I could sense there was a lot of respect there. They both want that fight. Jones' advice to him is he's got to make sure he wrestles and does jiu-jitsu. But again, it's really cool to kind of like be right in the middle of it and see the respect that they have for each other, because they both know, any given day, if they were to face each other, I wouldn't know who would come out on that fight, because they're both high-level athletes. And so it was cool to see that kind of respect between the two.
Right. All right, Amanda Nunes just retired from the sport. Kayla's been off most of this year. Cyborg hasn't been around. What can the PFL do? I think Larissa right now is the best higher weight female on this planet. What can the PFL do to maybe shine more light on her? Is it just her going back to back and winning 2 titles? Do you think that will get her over that top? Yeah, I think that's her first goal, is obviously to become a 2-time division champion. And of course, there's rumors of certain people becoming free agents in that women's 145 division. And I'm right here. I'm ready to sign there, whoever becomes available. Last one for me. You're heavyweight champion of last year, had an injury, won tonight, but will not move on to the playoffs.
Right.
Is there anything you think in the future maybe of a little champion clause of them kind of already getting to the playoffs? And, it seems like he's missing out just due to an injury. Do you think that's something that you guys can work on going forward?
I get where you're going, and I appreciate that, but it's one of these things that if everybody's got to earn that spot, the champion has to earn that spot again. Do you know what I mean? Because it's I truly understand what you're saying, and there could be something moving, in the future where the champion could fight, but also maybe has the playoff spot to be in the playoffs rather than being in the does that make sense? Right, yeah. Those are great ideas. But again, it's just one of these things that I got to sit down with the team and see where that goes, and once this season's is over. But yeah, I like that mindset as well. But he's still got to earn that playoff spot. I mean, that championship spot in the playoffs. Yeah.
Great night. We missed it on the court yesterday.
Thank you. I'm still working on my shoot.
So we're going to go Sullivan and then Jen, and then Undisputed.
Great night overall, great fights, but let's go back to the Francis John Jones face-off pick. Pre to this fight, when you guys are sitting in your office and thinking about how this night is going to turn out, did you expect it to look the way it turned out like that?
Well, our expectation is high, right? We always look to kind of set the bar. And again, like I said earlier, the guys the light heavyweights and the featherweights set the bar when everybody came out. Again, when I have this fighter meeting, I make sure that they know that this is the last opportunity for them to earn those points to get to the playoffs. So I think it gives all the fighters that urgency where to come out and try and finish to try and get to the playoffs. So again, we always expect the highest of things to happen. And the last 2 events, as you've seen, it's lived up to it.
With your Francis overall, do you feel like you guys have cashed in the viral moment with him facing up with John Jones?
It's one of those things where it just kind of like, it just happened organically with Jones in the cage, Francis out, they were going back and forth. And it was so, again, I go back to being in the middle of that. I mean, it was just good to see these guys at the highest level of the sport. And even though that there's, I don't want to say it's beef, but there's been words going back and forth between the two. But it was good to see that kind of respect that they had for each other. And so that's what every high-level athlete, or any athlete for that matter, should have, is the love for their passion, but at the same time, that respect that they continue to, show the world, if you will.
How often are you going to bring out Francis again to any of the other upcoming fights?
whenever he feels like coming to the show. I know that he's got a few other things next, this coming weeks, so he might not be here next week. But whenever he feels like he wants to come to the show, he's more than welcome.
Last one from the PFL Africa. When is that potentially going to happen?
So those are in talks right now. Obviously, we're targeting that for 2024. There's also a few other things in the works as well. But that's been talked about, and 2024, I believe, will kick off.
Do you have a location, a city, country?
Right now, no. I don't have, a location. I would assume that Francis probably want to kick it off in his hometown in Cameroon. And so, we'll see. It just, it depends on all the economics and things like that, and we'll go from there.
Hey Ray, so back to your heavyweight champion, Delija. Is he going to have that alternate spot? And kind of as a corollary to that, there's been a lot of talk about the super fight league coming up. As a former champion, do you think that maybe that solves the problem we were talking previously, and you can just jump into that instead of coming back into the tournament?
Well, I don't think it's a problem. It's a suggestion. That being said, the super fight pay-per-view, I don't even want to say it's the league, super fights, if you will. That depends on who becomes, if he wanted to sit into that, that's, it takes, we would have to sit down and talk and go from there. But any of our champions could easily fight in that.
Another big piece of news, or at least speculation this week, Bellator CEO Scott Coker mentioned the promotion in talks that maybe PFL has had some talks about firing them. Do you have any comment, statement about that?
All I can say about that is yes, we are in talks, and on due time that will be finalized. But yeah, at the moment we're still having conversations.
And last one for me. Last year you were here. We talked about opening up other weight classes. You said maybe bantamweight was in the works. Is that something we can look forward to for next year, or where are we?
Yeah, again, that's still in discussions, and I want to say that decision won't probably be made until after the championship. So we're just in November, and that's still a long ways away. But yeah, I don't think that decision will be finalized until after the championship.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
What's up, Sugar Ray? It's George Kennedy with Undisputed World MMA. I want to talk about Aspen Ladd and just her impressive victory with like 10 seconds left.
Right.
I wanted to get your reaction. Like, have you ever seen anything like that? Like, because I mean, literally, it looked like she had no time left to secure that armbar, and then like right at the 11th hour, she goes belly down,
right,
hits her with a couple of hammer fists, and then all of a sudden tap out. Like, how crazy was that for you to see that?
I see it all the time. For example, Jason Pineda last week, right? Yeah. I think he had that first round to win by a stoppage. Otherwise, his chances of being in the playoffs wasn't going to happen, right? He comes out and does exactly what he does. You know what I mean? And so, I've seen this from time to time, and good for her. Unfortunately, she because she had lost to the girl that she had the same points, then that Olena actually gets that. What do you call it? Gets that step ahead of her because she had lost to another fighter that had 5 points also.
And my last question is, you talk about the finishes. There were two very impressive finishes tonight at heavyweight. Dennis,
right,
a really good-looking knockout, and then Hennon, gets his knockout, but Hennon gets the fight of the night. Like, I was just wondering, like, when y'all were making the decision to give KO of the night, I was like, man, those were two really impressive knockouts. Like, what did it narrow down to really say, like, okay, Hennon, we're going to give it to Hennon because,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, he was he
Well,
had the more impressive knockout.
I mean, I didn't know who kind of came up with that and made that decision, but if it came to me, it would have been both guys.
Right.
You know what I mean? The knockouts were exactly almost, well, one was a left hook, the other one was a straight right.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? That being said, I mean, they both put on good knockouts and both won the way they did, and hence the reason why they're both in the playoffs.
Design with the undisputed world of MMA. Understanding you're looking at getting Bellator. I've always wanted to see fighters be able to fight like they do in boxing and have the belt in different, say, companies per se, or with different titles. Are you considering something like that? With MMA, where they can be champ at Bellator and have the belt with the PFL as well.
It's a good question. I actually haven't thought about it in that sense. Right now, for us, we're continuing to build PFL to get to the highest level of the game and the league. But it's something that we could possibly look at down the road. But right now, as it stands, for us, the main goal is to continue to elevate the PFL brand, and of course, continue to sign the best fighters that become available. Thank you.
One more.
Robot, I know last year when I was at this event, it was a good event.
Right.
But now, this year, it's gotten a lot bigger. Has your expectations kind of been met for Atlanta? Because you see it as a growing market for MMA?
Here in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously there's more and more fans, and this venue is an amazing venue. We talked about this last week as well. And we're happy with everything that, in terms of not only bringing the show here, but the response. I think, we could make this a must-go place moving forward. So, yeah, no, we love it out here. Thank you.
Buy a crib out here, Ray.
What's that?
Buy a crib out here.
Any more questions for you?